Now let us turn our Bibles to 1 Samuel chapter 28. 1 Samuel chapter 28. 1 Samuel chapter 28. Now look at verse 8. It begins with, "And Saul disguised himself and put on other raiment. And he went, and 2 men with him, and they came to a woman by night. And he said, I pray thee, divine unto me by the familiar spirit, and bring me him up, whom I shall name unto thee." Now here you will notice a few things. Saul had to disguise himself. Saul had to go by the cover of darkness of night. Now ultimately to do what? Now if you look at what the witch, now what did she say? Look at verse 12. She said, "Well, Saul," the woman spake to Saul in verse 12, saying, "Why hast thou deceived me? For thou art Saul." Disguising, going in the darkness of night, and deceiving. Now, Saul was doing something secretly, very clearly. Disguising is to make sure that people cannot recognize him, so he can move secretly, unknown to men. He was moving in darkness so that he will be avoided being seen. So not only disguising, he had to move to the next layer of being secretive. All right? Disguising is not good enough. I won't go there during the daytime. I make sure that I will do this thing at night, in the cover of night, in darkness. Now, ultimately, he had already one thing in his mind, to deceive. Because he knew that if he were to come as King Saul, all right, and during the day, where his disguise will be probably easily exposed, he will be recognized. He knew that if he did that, well, this witch of Endor will not dare to summon Samuel that he wanted. He had to deceive her. Now, this is part of Saul's secret acts. The title today is, "If you need to do something secretly." If you need to do something secretly, now you have to ask yourself carefully, why? By and large, when we have to do something secretly, all right, it generally will not be something good. Generally, it's something that we need to hide because it cannot see the light, right? Now, but before I go further, I just want to distinguish and make sure you understand what I am not talking about. Here is obviously things that what Saul did secretly are sinful, all right? But I am not talking about things that needs to be kept secret. Example, legal reasons. There are some things that for legal reasons, all right, proper legal reasons, you need to keep it secret. But even having said that, right, the lawyers may tell you, well, keep this secret. But if you know it's something that is wrong, is untrue, as a Christian, you should know in your heart. You cannot invoke, this is legal, I cannot talk about this. But you know in your heart, is it really true? Is there a secret in your heart? And you want to use legal things not to be able to cover up, all right, the secret that you know you have in your heart. But if it is genuinely legal, you're not supposed to reveal, all right, then it's secret. For example, investigations that are going on, like as if you're a policeman, you're a policeman and you're doing some certain investigation, it's proper to keep something secret. I'm not talking about some personal, all right, intimate things that there's no need to reveal to others, all right? Then you keep it secret. You don't need to reveal it unnecessarily. So I'm not saying that, well, doing something in secret, well, this is secret, and then I must go around and tell everyone. I cannot have secrets, all right? I'm not talking about those things. Now then, definitely, because like you reveal certain things, and today people are quite foolish, right? They put a lot of their personal information on social media. You become a target, right, of people with bad intentions, So I'm not saying that now when you go on social media, you cannot have secrets. Please understand that. Now, in fact, there are certain things God tells us to make sure is secret. All right? I'm sure you know what they are. Matthew 6:4 states, "But thou, when thou doest alms, let not thy left hand know what thy right hand doeth, that thine alms may be in secret. Then thy Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly." All right? So when it comes to service for the Lord, for others, when it comes to giving of alms, right, tithe and offerings, and so on, well, God says, let it be secret. So obviously, we are not talking about all this. Now, but when we have to do something that is secret, what the Bible says is this, John 3:20, For everyone that doeth evil hateth the light, neither cometh to the light, lest his deeds shall be reproved. You see, the Bible warns us about such behaviors, doing things secretly. And we do that because we know that this thing cannot face the light of God's word, God's ways. So we keep it secret. Now, when the Christian begin to have a life that you know that there is something currently that you are doing. You know that there is something, or maybe even in the past, right, your behaviors. You tend to have this behavior. Well, this message is something to warn us about such a life. Now, what are the dangers? What are the dangers of such a life? You say, well, it's secret, right? If it's secret, no one is harmed, then what is so dangerous about such a life? I've been doing this all my life. It is fine. Now, are there no dangers? If a Christian just choose to, have these behaviors all the time, right? Secretly doing this, secretly doing that, always having some secret agenda in your heart, and then manipulating and so on. Now here, the first danger, right? The first danger as we see from King Saul's life. Do not think that just doing something secret is fine, and nobody knows, nobody is harmed. Now, your character will begin to change. Your character will begin to change. Here we have King Saul. All right, King Saul. Now, this is not the first time King Saul has this habit of doing things with cover-ups. You know very well when he was asked to destroy everything in the Amalekites' camp, right? He knew that very clearly. But he went to do that, but he secretly, right, kept the best animals alive. He secretly kept the king alive. Although he knew very clearly what he needed to do, he covered up. Even when Samuel came to him, what did he say? I've done what the Lord asked me to do. But he knew secretly he did not do that. And when he was doing it, he knew that what the Lord has told him needs to be done. But he covered it up. Cover-ups are this secret way of working. He covered it up, but he could not escape. Eventually, Samuel asked, then what are all this noise from the animals, right? Then he moved to the next cover-up, right? Now his first cover-up was blown. Now his character was always like that. He moved to the next cover-up. The people wanted to do that. Oh, it's worship of God, and so on, right? The people. So a behavior that is always covering up things. Young person, are you like that? You know you've done something wrong, but you habitually cover up. Are you like that at home? What about adults at your workplace? You know you are such a person, always secretly doing something and then finding ways to cover up. Now, Proverbs 28:13. I'll read to you Proverbs 28:13. Now, God says, he that covereth his sins, and that is this doing things secretly, covering them up. He that covereth his sin shall not prosper. Shall not prosper. But whoso confesseth and forsaketh them shall have mercy. You will not prosper. You will not prosper in your spiritual character. You will not prosper in your sanctifications. This was that behavior that he had, right? Now, slowly but surely, he reached a stage here where he will commit. Now, it's such a habitual thing for him. The moment he's in trouble, he resorts to the same behaviors. He's so used to this. Habitually, well, if I need something, I want to do something, I want to achieve something, I'll just do it in secret. There is this danger that you will change. But what is it about this character that changes? What is it? You will become a manipulative person. That is how it is. People who work secretly, I'm talking about in sinful things, all right? Who work secretly, they are very manipulative. You look at King Saul. Well, first and foremost, he disguised himself. Then when he went to the witch of Endor, look at chapter 28. Look at chapter 28. Now, the witch of Endor said, Now, behold, thou knowest what Saul hath done, how he hath cut off those that are familiar spirits and wizards out of the land. For wherefore thou then layest thou a snare for my life to cause me to die? Now, how did he manipulate her? First and foremost, by disguising himself. Because if he let his identity be known, then she will not do what he secretly wants her to do. You become manipulative. Then Saul sware to her, oh, by the Lord, no, nothing, no punishment will happen to you this day. Right? Manipulate with disguising, getting her to do something. She trusted him. Now, you cannot avoid being a manipulative person in character. Please know that, because by definition, you want to do something in secret, you need to get it done, then people cannot know, and people cannot know, then you have to manipulate people. Some will manipulate with gaslighting, emotional blackmail, right? You know you've done something wrong. You've done something secretly, you're exposed by your parents or by your boss or by church. Then you make it sound like it's someone else's problem. It's actually the church. It's actually you. It's actually the parents, you parents. It's actually your spouse. Or you use emotional blackmail, making them feel bad. Then they think, oh, maybe it's true. You will become a manipulative person. Manipulating people, manipulating situations to get you what you want. Is the Christian supposed to have this kind of character? But you got used to it. Then you begin to be such a person, and then you realize that being such a person is how you get your ways. You will change. You will do it so often that you don't even think it's wrong. Now, let me ask spouses, husbands and wives. Let me ask children, all right? Are you manipulating some situation at home? Are you secretly covering up some things from each other? And it has become a normal way of life. Children, are you manipulating facts so that your siblings and your parents don't even realize, not even your parents? Spouses, right? Are you living a life where you are keeping a lot of things, or even some things, some particular things from each other? Manipulating situations, and your husband or your wife or your children or your parents, they have no clue even. But you have become a manipulative person. You know, even people of the world, they find such people very shameless. Very shameless. You will be exposed one day. You can't help it. You can't avoid that. Do you want to be such a person? Now, not only that, you will become someone that will eventually be shamelessly despicable. Shamelessly despicable. First is a habit. You do it, all right? Then you become manipulative, but it will eventually cause you to act in shameless ways because you're so used to it. Now, look at King Saul. Look at verse 11. And Then the woman said, whom shall I bring up unto thee? And he said, bring me up Samuel. Bring me up Samuel. Now then look at verse 7. And Saul said unto his servants, seek me a woman that hath familiar spirit. He said, Pastor, so what? Now Saul knew very clearly this is something that is totally unacceptable. Unacceptable. But he now will say, I want to find one. I want to find such a person. You see, his habitual manipulative nature of situations of people, he would now just openly ask, find me a witch. Then when the witch asked him, well, what do you want? Bring me up Samuel. Now he would shamelessly ask for things openly now, all right? Although still under disguise. Things that, as a king of Israel, is the most despicable thing to do. But now he will just do it. Your character will change without you even realizing. Don't think that just being a person who is always manipulating things to get your way. Now, you may even be manipulating things to get something that is not sinful. But you know you are a person that is habitually working by manipulation, even to get something not sinful. It is not good. It's dangerous. It will eventually progress, as we will see. Now, I remember a few years back in our church, there was this so-called Christian, all right? He came into our midst. Now, I was very uncomfortable with him because I noticed that night he was here, he would openly walk around the church, all right? Walk around the church, ogling women. So the sisters may be sitting, and he would just intentionally walk there and just stare at them, openly, ogling them. Some of the sisters realized that. They got very uncomfortable. Initially I thought I was the only one who noticed. But he was just walking around doing that. Now eventually, I was wondering in my mind, you call yourself a Christian, right? I spoke to him, so I'm a Christian, you know, I'm visiting churches. I actually have a regular church that I go to. I'm serving in that church. In fact, I'm serving, all right? So, but in my mind I was thinking, well, if you're serving there, why do you come here? But what troubled me more was, how could someone who says, I'm a service leader or something in another church, be doing that openly in a church? Now then, I only recently found out from someone that this person was actually someone who would stalk girls. Stalk girls. This person, in fact, was so open to tell this sister in the church that I stalk girls, right? And this is how I stalk them, even. But it's something so shameless and despicable, all right? But it's something that I'm sure, if he is a safe person, initially would be uncomfortable, but just keep doing it, stalking on the internet. It's secret, right? No one knows, right? It will eventually be something that you will just openly do. Lewd, lecherous behavior, openly. Christians, do not think that just by doing something secretly, right? Well, no one knows, it's been going on, nothing happens. You will not change. Your character will become, you will become a despicable person. You'll do shameless things. By all standards, this is shameless. Not that you ogle secretly is not shameless, but now these are very shameless behaviors. Now, stalking leads to an eventual open, despicable act. Now, things that you do undercover constantly will change you in a negative way. It will not increase your sanctification. Please know that. Secrecy in these aspects, God says when you cover up your sin, you will not prosper. Your character will go back to the behaviors of the old man. Now, this may not happen just to young people. I remember an elderly Christian, right, openly tells people, you know, it's very nice to sit on the public transport, to travel around. It's very nice to sit in public places. You can see all the pretty girls walk by. But this is an elderly man. Well, are you such a person, right? Just going places to ogle a woman. Or for the ladies, whatever it is, right? I don't know. What is it in your heart, but you think that it's all right to behave in this secret way. No, it will change you eventually. Because you get so used to that most people who find this is unacceptable behavior. This is socially unacceptable, let alone for a Christian. But you're so used to it, and you want something so much in your life that eventually you really don't think it's that despicable. You can openly talk about it, right? Like this man. You know, I stalk girls, and this is how I stalk them, and so on. Be careful, all right? You will change so much that, because you're so used to it, you will change so much that even Christians will find, oh, why are you like that? The next danger. Now, you will progress to some dual life. Some dual life. You know, the people talk about Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. A dual life. Or is it Mr. Jekyll and Dr. Hyde? One of them, right? Hyde and Jekyll. Dual character. Dual behavior. You will lead a secret dual life. King Saul is typical of King Saul. All right? Only when he's caught, he admitted, and after he's caught, he reverts to his dual life again and immediately finds ways to cover up. That is how he is. Now he is king. Now, we know in chapter 28, in the beginning, the Bible tells us in verse 1, and Saul put away those that have familiar spirits and the wizards out of the land. Now, to the point where the witch of Endor openly says, don't you know that Saul, look at verse 9, what Saul had done to cut us off, to kill us, chase us out of the land. Don't you know what Saul has done? But here Saul was known to be such a king, kills witches, all right? But here, on the other hand, find me a witch. Secretly go to her, deceive her, to get what he wants. It was an absolute dual life. He had a reputation of being such a king, but when he just revert to that, well, I keep doing things in secret, on the other side, he just keeps doing that. Now, Christians, be very careful. When, I will put it this way. Now, you can even have very strong convictions about certain things, right? Initially, King Saul is always doubtful whether he was saved. But you just say you're a believer, and you think that these are nothing, and you continue. If you're honest, you realize that on the outside, with public people, with others, you may be genuinely, all right, hating certain things. In King Saul's case, I doubt. Genuinely hating certain things. But once you revert into your secret life, you can be a very different person. We can be a very different person. You agree? You want to be holy. You walk rightly before men. But once those moments of secrecy that you have to your own self, you know that you are a very different person. You'll be too ashamed for people to know and see that. You see, this dual life, it happens to many Christians. Why? Or simply because the ignoring of a secret life, ignoring of doing all these things in secret, you don't even want to think about this. You just keep going on doing them. Now, King Saul openly condemned those things once. You can openly condemn many sins, but don't be surprised that you can lead a dual life that actually causes you to be continuing in certain secret sins that you publicly condemn. How many times have you read, right, pastors condemning certain sins, adultery, pornography, whatever it is? But they're the ones, right, that got exposed. A dual life. Some may be very good pastors. I think some of you may have followed this well-known Christian, right? Can't remember his name now. Very well-known, all right? A great apologist, right? Defends the word, defends the truth, but generally quite philosophical, very well-known, right? I have people who write to me, what do you think of this person, and so on. Well, he died not too long ago. Then after he died, his dual character, his secret life came out. He had a website that was under his name. People set it up and all that. Now they've changed all that. They don't need to be associated with him. What did he do? He was constantly, all right, molesting people and so on, all right? No one knew about that. Do you understand? A secret life is very dangerous. Do not think that it's secret and nobody knows. Then you'll find. Now, God makes it very clear. Luke 8:17, for there is nothing hidden that will not be made manifest, nor any secret that will not be known and come to light. Now, this must be something that strikes fear in our hearts. If I am living such a life, it may not be sinful things, I emphasize, but it is just something that you always do in secret. To get something that is not sinful, at least in your mind it's not sinful, but you resort to this means. You should always remember, if something that needs to be done this way, I should be very, very cautious of it because it changes me. And I can eventually lead a dual life. In church, outside, at work is one way. Once you get home, or when you backslide, or you just go back into the other nature. And then your parents knock on the door. What are you doing? Oh, nothing, right? Now, when King Saul did all these things secretly, I really wonder as I prepared this. Now, how would he be feeling actually? All the while in this secret disguise, going out by night, or intentionally doing all this, but at the same time knowing that he has such a reputation. Now, how does he live with it? But then I began to realize all of us can have our own areas that we are like that. We condemn certain things, but yet we can commit those actual abhorrent acts. You see how scary it is? Now, but let me ask you, students, what about you? Do you have a secret dual life? Right? In family prayer, Lord, help me to be honest in my homework and all that kind of things. Help me to do my homework well so that I can go to church. You say all the right things, but secretly you know what you're doing. You have a dual life. Your parents think you're like that. The church thinks you're like that. But once you're in your room, do you have a dual life? You spend your time on the social media or worse, on some sinful things, but your parents think that you are so good, right? Likewise for adults, not just young people. Be very careful. Are you copying, plagiarizing, using AI to do your homework and pass it off as yours? Well, no harm is done. No, the harm is that you will change in your character. You slowly change, and then eventually, because you keep getting away with it, you will lead a dual life. Please know that. Now, no friendship turns into adultery in the workplace or even in church, all right? Overnight. So, if you're secretly harboring anything, right? If you find that it's something that you cannot reveal, be very careful. Whatever it is, you can lead a dual life. Anything that you need to hide. Now, but it is no surprise. I want to show you a verse. Please turn to 1 Samuel chapter 15. 1 Samuel chapter 15. Is it a surprise? God warned King Saul. 1 Samuel chapter 15. Now see how God has already warned King Saul about all the things that we have just mentioned. 1 Samuel chapter 15. Now let's read, I shall read to you verse 23. For rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft, and stubbornness is as in iniquity and idolatry. Because thou hast rejected the word of the Lord, he hath also rejected thee from being king. I want to read again the first part. For rebellion is the sin of witchcraft, and stubbornness is as iniquity and idolatry. God used Samuel to warn King Saul. Why are you so rebellious? Whenever I bring something up, you rebelliously resort to covering up. You would not admit you would then resort to the other character of yours, that dual life, to try to show that you are so holy. Oh, I kept all this after being exposed. I kept all this for you to worship your God, the very best to worship your God. Why do you keep being so rebellious in these secret cover-ups, secret way of working? Continue to let this dual life. I want to project that I'm holy. But the reality is, you know in your heart why you did all those things. Now, but God says this. Saul, please know, this rebelliousness in covering up, living a secret life, trying to show one thing, but you are another, and you don't deal with it. God says, for rebellion is as a sin of witchcraft. What did King Saul eventually do here in chapter 28? He resorted to witchcraft. It was a warning ahead of time. Christian, let us take this warning carefully. Teens, are you rebellious? Always covering up. Always saying things that are false to get your way. Rebelliously covering up, rebelliously going on in this secret life. Same for adults, whatever it is. Is there anything in your life now that you continue to be rebelliously going on in these secret acts? Is there any? It will lead you to this warning. Saul had this warning. It's a sin of witchcraft. You will do that which you condemned, that which you killed. This riches for. You will end up in this dual life doing something that you never imagined you would do. The very thing that you publicly condemn. It's so scary, isn't it? It scares me tremendously. We have to be so careful with this. I think you would notice by now, in the last few messages, there is a common theme that God has been putting forth in Saul's life, in David's life. And he compared it with Samuel's life in this beginning of this chapter. Such a big contrast between these men. There is a trend, a common repeated trend, and that is ignoring sin leads to worse and worse acts of repulsive sins. This is a common theme throughout the last few chapters, culminating in this final part of King Saul's life, where he will reach what God wants him. You keep doing this, you will end up in witchcraft. That is what you will do. Now, what is it that God has been warning us of in the last few messages? About going back to your old ways, your old thinking, your old mode of operation, your mode of thinking and behaviors in secret? Where has God been warning us again and again? Be careful of backsliding. Be careful of engaging in certain things, but we just rebelliously ignore it. If I can do it in secret, nobody knows, I will continue in it. This has been the theme. Are we going to respond? Are we going to change? Now, maybe I give some practical picture, and hopefully we come to this realization that it is not just doing something in secret that is not very sinful. No, children, or even adults, right? They say, what are you doing? Then you quickly switch the screen, right? Oh, I'm reading the Bible. Oh, I'm doing my homework. Don't take these things lightly. Even if what you're watching is not something sinful. But the moment you develop a character, quickly switch it off. Quickly turn the screen. You are developing a character of, I work secretly. I will disguise. I will do this at night. Now, things done at night, I'm not saying everything done at night is evil. We have meetings at night. But there's this thing about night, where our tiredness, our end of the day with all the stress, there's a high tendency, right, to do things by night that are dangerous. Which is why we often, and parents, you do not like your children to go out late at night. There is this thing about this night where the old man just feels darkness, all right? No one knows, so I can do this, and parents don't know. Be careful of the nights where we often feel people are asleep, no one will really know. Disguising, quickly changing the screen in the workplace as well. Your video binging at the workplace or at home, wherever you are. Your video binging, right? But you often quickly change the screen. Behaving like you're studying, but you're not. Pretending to be busy at work and at home. What are you doing, right? But you have spent hours surfing the net, going to online shopping, indulging in whatever social media you're binging on, and then, we're very, very busy at home, right? Now, what is it? Secret life. Your husband says, why are you so busy? Why so tired? Oh, the whole day was this and that. But you know what secret life you have been leading, what you do. So be very careful about such lives. There are dangers. Don't take them lightly. So now the question is this. You know that it can, over time, change your character to the point where you don't even think those things you've been doing in secret is actually unacceptable and shameful. You will just talk about this. It will cause you to lead a dual life eventually, right? And eventually commit the very sins that you used to publicly condemn. It is so scary. The dangers. God warns us very clearly, all right? Now, I read to you Luke chapter 12, verses 2 to 3, about the warning. Luke chapter 12, verses 2 to 3. For there is nothing covered that shall not be revealed, neither hid that shall not be known. Therefore, whatsoever ye have spoken in darkness shall be heard in the light, and that which ye have whispered in the closets shall be shouted on the housetops. God says there's nothing covered that will not be revealed. Nothing hid that shall not be known. Nothing spoken in darkness that shall not be heard. Nothing you whispered in the closets, you think no one knows. Not even my parents, my spouse. Words whispered in the closets will not be shouted on housetops. Now God warns us of what will happen. Like he warned King Saul, you continue down this road, King Saul, I want you to know specifically, you are going to end up in witchcraft. God tells us, all these things that you think you do in secret, you speak in secret, you think they won't be revealed? God said they will be. Do you want one day to have all this that you think is in secret and nobody knows it won't be revealed, be all exposed? Now Revelations chapter 20, verse 12. Now God says, I saw, and John says, and I saw dead, great and small, standing before God, and the books were opened, and another book was opened, which is the book of life. And the dead were judged out of those things which were written in the books according to their deeds. God says everything will be exposed. God warned in Luke chapter 12. Do you want to have a life on earth where you do all these things secretly, and then you think, well, when I die, I go to heaven? Nothing will be known. All our works will be judged. For the Christian at the Bema seat, you may get away with it on earth. No one knows, and then you satisfy yourself. You got what you wanted. Nobody knows. But it will be known. Do just keep remembering this. Saul did not want to remember, did not want to leave it in his heart. Rebellion is a sin of witchcraft. It will lead to the same thing. Saul, he did not want to think about that. It's not a warning. It's just crying wolf, right? Nothing will happen. It happened exactly here. God promises in Luke 12, in Revelations 20, what will happen. Just keep thinking in your mind, all right, about that. The warnings. Now with that, then we ask ourselves, what can we do? What should we do? I do not want to end up in such a state. I do not want to end up with such an end, even if I'm saved. Now, first and foremost, look at chapter 28, right, verse 8. And Saul disguised himself and put on other raiment, and he went, and the 2 men with him, and they came to the woman by night. How did Saul reach such a stage? Saul, the king that is so well known in killing, removing these seers that have familiar spirit. How did he end up like that? I said from the beginning, it's a historical streak of Saul. That is why God warned him. Warned him about his rebellion. You know, rebellion, and God says, and stubbornness. Just keep going on in this kind of secretive behaviors in things that you know you should not be doing. Even if it may not be sinful, but you know, even socially it's not acceptable. But you just keep doing it. It's not really sinful. Just maybe socially not acceptable. But it satisfies my curiosity. It satisfies my lust. It gets me what I want. But no one is harmed, right? Stubbornness means you keep going on, like King Saul, in this kind of dual character. Now then, what must we learn? Now ask yourself, are you historically someone who have a streak, a habit, a character of doing things secretly and then just taking it lightly? Do you have such a streak in you, a character? Some people are very upright, and neither are they interested in doing these things. But are you one of those that are the opposite? You are someone who, have this habit. Now, are you someone who like to dig around secrets? Dig around secrets. Just always just want to find out things, right? And secretly do that. Are you someone who like to go through people's things? There are people who like that, you know. They like to go through people's things, just to find out how this person is, what this person thinks about. Just like to do that. Social media allows us to do that, right? Now, I was trying to read up the characteristics of someone who works secretly, right? And very often, most of the topic is about social media stalking. Are you one of them, right? Always just curious. What's happened in this person's life? What's happened in this person's life? And then you go there, I cannot get to this person's Facebook. I don't know how you do it. Okay, let me see any way to get more information. Are you someone like that? You know that even such behavior is socially unacceptable. Which is not sinful, right? Be careful. If you have a streak that is like that, I'm always trying to find out, always digging through people's things and so on. Now then you know you have such a streak in you, such a characteristic. Now King Saul, let's stay here. Now it's a habitual reaction. It comes to a point, it's a habitual reaction. The moment you meet someone new, you have to go through that. You just have to. The moment you are not sure, you don't know what happened, you just have to, right? What's happening at home, and you dig through your husband's thing, or you dig through your wife's things, you dig through your children's things, right? Children, by the way, your parents have authority to do that. It's for your safety, right? But it's just curiosity, and it is just, we said the previous week, curiosity killed the cat, right? In another way, it is true here. The habit of doing all these things secretly. Well, some people say they call it a habit loop. A habit loop. Automatically triggered by cues, leading to desired outcome or reward. Right? That is why people do things in secret. Historically, if you are such a person, get out of that loop now. Before those warnings come true in your life, get out of that loop now. Be an upright, honorable, transparent Christian. That there's nothing that you do that anyone finds out about. You find that, that is not acceptable. That is so embarrassing. Why do you do things like that? Right? Change. Otherwise, you will become like King Saul, dual character. No one knows who you really are. They only see what you are in church, in public, but you have another character. Now, King Saul knew what he did was worthy of death. He knew this was worthy of death. He knew this was wrong. But because this streak is in him, that he allows it to continue throughout his life, because of that, instead of getting rid of it, he would go ahead, and that is what we found out, he would go ahead and actually do the very things that he condemned in others, right? Now, do you work under disguise regularly? Do you do that? Under the disguise that, oh, I care for you, right? Under the disguise that, well, I want to do this, I want to find out, because I want to pray for you. Are you someone who uses disguise to deceive people into giving you information? Are you such a person? Now be very careful, which is why we are always concerned about sharing prayer requests, right? Many people, they want to know not because they genuinely care for you or want to pray for you. There are people who ask a lot. I learned my lesson. After they ask, they do nothing. Then I learned that there are people who are just, well, curious and they love to dig information. So I ask again, spouses, parents, are you someone who is living a dual life, who have this streak? Ask yourself that. If you are, make sure you acknowledge it and start to change. Now, the Lord tells us, all right, the Lord tells us in Ephesians 5:8, for you were sometimes darkness. It's always about darkness, secrecy, sinful darkness. For you were sometimes darkness, but now ye are light in the Lord. Walk as children of light. Do not have this kind of streak in you. Walk as children of light, right? Develop such a character. People will honor, or rather you'll be a good testimony, all right? Now, the second thing with this, the second thing that we can do, that we can learn from King Saul is this, or rather not learn from King Saul. Now, look at verse 7. And said Saul unto his servants, seek me a woman that hath a familiar spirit, that I may go to her and inquire of her. Now, what must we notice? First, notice if I have such a streak of doing things in secret, all right? Now, next is the moment, the rising of wanting to do something that requires secrecy. I'm talking about the bad things, right? The bad things. Stop and ask yourself, what am I doing? Saul, when he said, seek me a woman with a familiar spirit, he should already say, what did I just say? That I may go to her, what? And inquire of her? Now, the moment Saul said that, he would already know that he need to go there in secret because he's a king that kills witches. Now, every time you think about doing something, I want to do something, or you're just about to say something to someone, and you know this streak is coming up, and you know that actually what I ask for or what I'm going to do now must be done in secret. You should already know alarm bells should be going off everywhere in your head. Stop. That is the way to prevent yourself from going further. Identify the rising. Immediately be very conscious and sensitive to all this. At night, in darkness, where you have all the opportunities to do that, and you're walking to whatever it is that you're walking to or going to do. Then you say, why am I going here? Why am I doing this? Why am I opening this? But Saul did not. Saul did not. Now, this morning in BBK, I told you about polysyndeton's in the Hebrew language. Look at verse 8. And Saul disguised himself, there's the first end, and put on other raiment, second end. And he went, third end, fourth end, and two men with him, fifth end, and came to the woman by night, and he said, and bring me him up. Now, this That's why I say the King James Version is a very faithful translation. All right? It's not normal English to and. You remove it and just put comma, comma. Now, in the Hebrew language, this is a tool of the Hebrew language, an instrument in the Hebrew language to cause a person to realize that the acts now that are happening are very deliberate, very intentional, almost telling the reader, now can you please read this and imagine all these things happening in slow motion. Every one of it is intentional, leading one to another. Slow down and think and see what is happening. Saul could stop. Saul should have stopped at any stage here. Before the next end comes, he should have stopped. Now, whenever you realize you need to do something and it has to be in secret, I say again, I'm not talking about those that are validly that needs to be done in secret, all right? There are many things that in life is like that. Saul clearly knew it was something that was going to be sinful, but he did not stop himself. Now, you know the mercies of God? The mercies of God to stop Saul right to the last minute. This dual life, this outward king who kills what? And then disguise and go by night. This dual life. Do you know that God, till the last moment, you know that after this, King Saul is going to die. To the last moments of his life, God was very merciful. Learn that. You say, how? Now look at chapter 28. Chapter 28. Now, God gave specific information. Verse 4. The Philistines gathered themselves together and came and pitched in Shunem. And Saul gathered all Israel together and they pitched at Gilboa. Now, God do not waste information. When I read this, I wanted to find out, why does God want to give this information? All right? The exact places, Shunem and Gilboa. And then the witch, any witch. But God wanted to make sure that he gave the information of the location of the witch. Verse 7. At Endor. What is the significance? If you look at the map, you realize that for Saul to move from Gilboa to Endor, he will have to pass by the Philistines who are at Shunem. God allowed, if you have a witch and you want to find this witch will be at a place where you have to risk your life, where you have to go in darkness, where you have to disguise yourself, not only to deceive her, but to make sure that you will not die. Hoping that this will at least stop him. He is so afraid, trembling at the Philistines, but he would still go ahead with this secret act. God mercifully positioned the Philistines in a place where he would hopefully King Saul would say, this is too dangerous. He will not stop. Not only that, look at verse 11. And the woman said, in verse 12. I'm so sorry. Look at verse 9. The woman said, he reasoned with Saul. Now, how can you do this? No, I'm going to die, Reason with him. Don't you know that King Saul? And he specifically said, verse 9, Saul, know what Saul has done. Saul, who heard that, Saul has done that. It was like God using even this witch to slap his face. Saul did this to stop him. Sometimes God in his mercy, he tries to stop us in these secret things that we keep going on. Students, what is it? Wives, husband, what is it? God put hurdles in the way, make it so difficult. But we circumvent it. We try all sorts of things to get it done in our lives. You lock the door or whatever. You see a lot of comedies on this, right? The children, right? When parents walk into the room, the screen changes and all. It looks funny. But God mercifully send your parents in. God mercifully send your spouse in. What happened? What is this? God's mercies to cause the witch to reason with Saul did this. God's mercy to using the woman. Why are you doing this? Don't do this in this land. We should not do this anymore. You see, when we develop this secret life, We come to a point where what we want, we just keep doing it, and we try to circumvent God. But we must realize we are circumventing God's mercies to us. Now I know of men who keep their old girlfriends photographed in their wallets. Then when exposed, they give some reason, right, to the wife. The wife believes. I know of people like that. The wife believes. The photograph in the wallet, accidentally exposed. I remember I walked into a shop once, all right? I wanted to buy something. And then this man also wanted to buy something. He was in a queue before me. Then he was opening his wallet. And then he took a $100 bill out from the inside of the wallet, right? And then the cashier joked, the owner of the shop joked, you're one of those. One of those who hides money from the wife, right? So that you can buy your things and you can go back and tell your wife, I want to buy this thing, but it's $100 less. Well, what harm is there? Just $100. What harm is there? No, you're developing a trait. Stop. If you're hiding these things, just say, what am I doing? I stop here before it gets worse. Students, like I said, are you secretly disobeying your parents in something to the point where they do not know? They have not known until now. Stop. Stop. Change. Be a child that walks in the light. That is what God saved us to do. All right? Don't say these are not sinful things. But even socially it's not acceptable. And why do I need this to do this? I need to stop this kind of mindset, of this kind of behavior in my life. Stop. Now, then, at the workplace, adults, are you like that? Is there anything at all? Anything at all? Just say, I've been doing this and this and this and this, and the end is leading you to a particular end that you want to achieve. The earlier you stop at the A and D before the next step, the better. Stop. Ask yourself, why am I doing this? Ask yourself, what is the biblical reasons for doing this? What is it? If you cannot give a biblical reason, this is something that you should stop. But look at the other thing that King Saul did. Now look at verse 10. And Saul sware to her by the Lord, saying, as the Lord liveth, there shall no punishment happen to thee for this thing. Do not use God's name in vain. Do not cook up some biblical reason to continue in this secret thing. Or because this is for the benefit of the church. Or because this is for benefit of this and that. But you know the reason why you're doing. This is for my spiritual benefit. You know the truth. Do not do anything that you would use Christian reasons, biblical reasons, spiritual reasons to justify what you're doing secretly. And make others think, no, nothing will happen. God is all right with this. And you fool yourself, God is all right with this. That is the most dangerous stage you can reach. Do not do that, parents. Ask yourself, why am I doing this? What is my agenda? What is it? What is real? Do not borrow God's name to do what you want to do secretly. Financially, I can't do that. Nobody knows. Is it truly a financial situation? Or because of health reasons, I cannot do this. No one knows whether it's true. Only you know in your heart whether you are cooking up those reasons, financial, health, whatever it is. Only you know. It may seem truly like a very valid spiritual reason. Now, Saul can also say, right? Don't worry, nothing will happen to you. I am Saul. I'm the one who kills witches. So don't worry, if I ask you, it's fine. And I'm doing this because I need to know from Samuel what's going to happen to Israel. You see, we can come up with all sorts of reasons in our heart. do not use God's name in vain. God will never, never, ever stand idly by to let you use His name in vain, spiritual reasons or whatever. The consequences will come. The sin itself will have its own consequences. You want to use all these things and say that it's for this reason, that reason, some spiritual reason. Now, at the end of the day, you are going to reap what you sow. Something will happen. Now, when we really think about all this, don't you think it is very, very, very scary? The heart can think of, I'm doing this for spiritual reasons, right? But you know in your heart what it is about. Now, lastly, and we close. Well, whenever you want to do something that needs to be done in secret, and you know there is no biblical reason, and if there's a biblical reason, you search your heart, and you know it is not the true biblical reason, don't take the next step, even if it is your habitual thing to do. Do not. The polish in the thorn there was to emphasize you will progress closer and closer and closer to what you think you can get, and you think because it's secret there's no consequences. No, you're just progressing closer and closer and closer. Even God tries to put things in a way to stop you, but you find ways around it. You find reasons around it. You're only getting closer, like King Saul, to the final judgment. Do not do that. Do not yield to temptation. Let us rise to sing the closing hymn. Shall we rise? 391. Shall we rise? 391.